Tough topic today. And I say that with a smile. I have been trained to smile through everything, put on a happy face. So I can relate to those who may have ADHD or autism or other things where they mask. We all mask, right? We put on a face. So I can understand that. Larissa, Prodigal Pieces here, ready to share more because I know there are people that need to hear from folks like me who are dealing with the same situation but don't feel heard. And if you were reading my blog post, I mentioned some things in there about having a high pain tolerance. And again, I always thought it was just me. But after some different events happening, remember this was about 2 years ago when I realized my situation with a narcissist parent. Started, you go through sorting the memories in your head and putting the pieces together, and it starts to just fit. And I will come up with some sort of topic that I'm like, I wonder if this is because of that. Is that why I do this? Does this explain that? And I can't tell you over and over again, I can find answers. And it's blissful in a way that there are resources, I can type it in and find answers, find books, find podcasts, whatever, people sharing their information. So with the pain tolerance, it really hit harder recently. So I've always been one that's conscious of my health, and I'm very in tune with my body. I think that kind of goes along with me being able to read people really well and read a room, and I'm hyper empathy. So I know myself and I know that something's going on, but I tend to downplay it. So part of that came from different instances. So let me get to this story I'm going to talk about. When I say I've been conscious of my health, my diet, I exercise, and more so in the last couple of years because I need to put me first. After my youngest, she's now 11 years old, went through 3 weeks in the NICU, and my cortisol was through the roof. And I started to notice, if you look at a previous blog post, that I became on the path of insulin resistance and then on diabetes. And I don't eat that way, right? It's literally my body not handling cortisol well. And with that, I've it's not bruxism officially. I do know I clenched my teeth and I wear a night guard to protect, because I was seeing different things within my own mouth, diagnosing myself. And I could see that there was something going on in the last couple of years that was not looking good. And I know it was directly related to my stress with my gums and my back molars. Went to the dentist to have a cleaning. I had put that off for a time because it was just financially expensive, but also thinking I would be okay. And ended up with needing a lot of work done on a couple teeth. And you want to talk about painful, yes, but what happened was I was getting a filling done on one tooth, and they used a Novocaine with epinephrine in it. And epinephrine is like an adrenaline boost, right? That's what people use when they're having an anaphylactic reaction to, let's say they're allergic to peanuts and they eat peanuts, and they have an EpiPen and they would stab it into their leg and get a boost of adrenaline. On the chair, I began convulsing, and I know that shakes can happen, but this was bad. And I was going, what's going on? I didn't know that there was epinephrine in the Novocaine. But I went home with my heart racing. I had to drive about 20 minutes. When I got home, I felt okay. But then all of a sudden started my heart pounding, almost like heart attack. Just what is going on, jumping out of my chest. And then the rest of that day, actually, I fell asleep. I was so just drained from that episode, like a panic attack, that I also began reliving trauma and having trauma episodes through the rest of the day. And I thought, what in the world? So I researched here. It can affect people like that who have CPTSD. So note, if you suffer from anything like this, that you should definitely talk to your dentist about not having Novocaine with epinephrine in it. So from here on out, I required no epinephrine. Well, I had to go through a root canal and a crown because of where I hit and I grind on my teeth or clench. And, making myself so stressed out that I had to go through this. Just, it angers me. But during that time, they're like, well, we need epinephrine, the type of Novocaine. And I was like, no, you're not using it. So they basically did the work without pain relief. And they were all floored that I was okay. And I kept saying, yeah, I'm fine. Keep going. And it hurt. But I kept tucking it away. And I think I paid the price for that. It hit me later. So I'm wondering, okay, if I did that, and everybody's floored at my pain tolerance, they always have been, how I can handle, I've home birthed my kids, how I can handle it and how I tolerate it. What toll is that taking on my body? And why? Why do I do that? Well, it goes from being trained to put yourself last, to not be heard, to hold in, to avoid the strain. And I can remember a lot of instances where when I was a child, I had an upstairs bedroom at the other end of the house, and I was told to not bother my parents at night. I was told to use this Big Bird washcloth. Just wipe your face when you're upset and to go back to bed. I've got to work in the morning. So I would lay beside the toilet vomiting in the bathroom and then just lay there all night. And I was like, I'm okay. I handled that. I remember specifically there was a time when about my youngest daughter's age, maybe a little older even, I burnt my hand really bad on a little toaster oven, and it blistered instantly on the butt of my hand. And I knew not to go to this parent when I had pain because it was often dismissed. They happened to walk through the room at that time, and I thought, I'm going to say something. I did, and I was told I was too fussy. I'd be fine. I can remember lots of things like that. And I've had lots of health issues in my life. So if you come in tune with things like that, it's helping me understand myself. Now my dentist knows, don't use epinephrine. They've asked again if I could try, no, if you can give me pain relief or I don't need it, without the epinephrine. But I've heard of people also doing what they call a therapy where they allow themselves to start shaking and force themselves into shaking to bring up stored trauma. I don't suggest it. I don't know anything about it. But to me, that scared me because here's why. I've been recently to my kids' track meets and tennis matches, and I'm cold. And I'm even wearing snow pants and the whole gear. And I'm not normally a cold body. I've trained myself. I go on barefoot walks in 30 degrees. But this is where you're sitting and you're not moving and you're just getting cold to the core. And I would start to shiver and shake. And then later I'd have trauma. So my body relates that shaking that I get when I'm telling stories or I'm even listening to somebody else telling me their stories. I'd have that shaking, and that's my body releasing that. So it's good to be in tune, to know why it's there, and to say, mentally you can work through those moments and process. And I'm cognizant of things that I do, how I process. But I also mentioned some different things that the guilt of not knowing how to stop and just be. And I'm going to share more about that in my next discussion that's related to neurodivergent relationship. But I always was on watch. I can't exactly pinpoint, other than I was trained to be hypervigilant and to read a room, to read people, because you had to be concerned. Was this a safe time? Was this not a safe time? Feel guilty not doing. I am one of the hardest workers you will ever meet. I have been told repeatedly in my jobs, man, Larissa, if I could clone you. I remember a boss one time, she herself, the boss, her manager, and the other coworkers sat down in a booth where I worked, and we're just enjoying. Nobody was in the restaurant. And they're like, Larissa, come sit down. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I can't do that. In my head, I'm like, I can't do that. I have to stay going. I have to keep working. That's not right. So I was trained to do that. So is that a bonus of this wonderful sarcasm inserted gift I've been given? Yeah. I also have trouble being on the spotlight. And I've noticed there's other family members as well who, like me, do not care for birthday celebrations, holidays, just blend in. It's safer. It's sad. So I'm working on that, allowing myself, if I don't want to celebrate my birthday, oh well. Last year I told my kids, don't. I want to not do that. And they honored it, and it was hard for some. But I shouldn't have felt guilty that I didn't want to. But I do. And that's reality. So that is my reality. Maybe that's the same for you. Just processing different things, understanding that I've said it again and I'll say it again. I still don't know who Larissa is. We're shaped by our environment, our family. So yeah, your traits do come, some genetically just pop in, some are trained in. But I was like, well, I do this because of this. So would I have done it elsewise? I don't know. And I don't want to dwell on that too much. But there is nothing wrong with me taking the time to say, I'm like filtering it down. I get it. I understand. And I understand I had an unhealthy parent, unhealthy family of origin. A lot of unhealthy in the generations past. I wanted to stop, and I wanted to stop with me, and teaching my children how to be healthy. I want them to have healthy relationships, and you know that I mentioned we deal with autism and ADHD to a degree. Not every kid is the same, just like you and me, we're not the same, so everyone has different gamut of hurdles and things that they need to have in their life to make themselves settle and feel happy. I am so glad that I'm learning this. I just remember listening to my body. I've always been really in tune, like I've said. There was a story shared by Leslie Vernick, and she's a relationship counselor. And she told the story of a gal that she was, a client who had been in a horrible marriage relationship and had went separated from this partner of theirs and was trying to get help. Unbeknownst to Leslie, she decided to go back to this said person, and they went to Vegas to get married. Quick marriage again. This lady's body showed her up. They went to the altar. She passed out, got so sick, and couldn't do it. See, her brain and her body knew better that this was not healthy. And it shut down right there. And I've heard other stories of other people. My body was shutting down. It's still reacting to things. I think over time those reactions will lessen because I will begin to recognize the danger up here, not just physically, but I will get it and I will stop it before it gets out of control. You got to do you, and I want to encourage you that you don't need to be what somebody else wants you to be. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Sounds easy. Would you imagine going no contact with your parent or your family? Meanwhile, that parent is telling the family lies about you, saying that you're not mentally right. A narcissist won't ever own it. An abuser, it's not their fault. That's what they say. It's not their fault. They've got their own issues, and could make effort to help and take care. But for now, I'm protecting me. Lula is dreaming beside me. I don't know if you can hear her. Protecting my children as much as I can. Some are adults, and we've had discussions, and they're on their own in that regard. I'm here for them, but they can make their own decisions. Feel free to reach out to me. I have limited availability like anybody does, but I will do what I can. If I can't help you, meaning get you to the right source because I'm not a professional, at least having an ear there, it helps. Lula might be having a nightmare. All right, Larissa Prodigal Pieces. I invite you to sign up for my newsletter. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I can get shut down on social media in different places, but I want to create a family where we can come and have discussions. If there's something that you want to hear about that I haven't discussed yet, or you have a question and maybe you don't want to post it because this is a public post, feel free to email me. And I do try to create content that is going to be what you want, need, so on. And I still do my DIYs. I don't know if you have any questions about that, but when I'm not shipping furniture anymore and items, I'm pretty much not doing so much storefront. It's more of local sales. And so that means I'm not creating as many small items and such. I really feel God tugging at my heart in a different way. I don't know the exact plan yet, but I do see him leading and I'm excited. Until next time.